What's up, world? Give me just a second while everything gets connected. We get rocking and rolling on this fine, fabulous Friday. Happy 5th of July. Welcome to the second Monday of the week. Actually, I was talking to my team earlier. It really legitimately feels like another Monday after having a day off. But I'm here. I'm bright-eyed. I'm bushy-tailed. I'm ready to help you guys take over the world and make a massive amount of money. We're going to be doing some cool stuff together. But today we are going to be continuing on our path of scalability, and we're going to be talking through some stuff. So if you are joining me, give me a hi. Let me know that you're hanging out with me here. Let me know that you can see me and hear me loud and clear. Appreciate you guys all being here on this wonderful Friday. Let me just say, okay, let's make sure everything's sharing the way it's supposed to. All right, very good, very good. So we're gonna get rocking and rolling here. I'm on a little bit of a tight schedule today because I got some cool stuff that we're working on. So for those of you guys who are following along with me, those of you guys who are here, keep an eye out because Monday we will be launching our first version, our beta version of the Snap-on campaigns. We've been like busting my butt getting some stuff ready for you guys on that, working through our automations, working through our systems to make sure that you guys have everything you need. But while you're getting going, but keep an eye out on Monday. We're going to start testing those. We're going to start. We're actually next week we're getting into building a Snap-on a week for you guys. So I'm super excited about this. This is something. Actually, how we came up with all this, guys, was those of you guys have been hanging out with me since April when I decided I was going to go live every day in the month of April. That's where I came up with this idea from you guys just giving me feedback and talking with me. So I love you, all of you guys. Appreciate you guys. Glad you're hanging out with me because you guys are the reason that I do what I do because it's no fun if I just do it for myself. Brant, glad to see you over here on YouTube. Hope you're having an amazing Friday. Let's see who's hanging out. Oh, we got Suzette. Hey, Suzette. Will, Mr. Will. Appreciate you. And Brett Moore. Man, I got all the regulars. You guys are awesome. And some new faces. Suzette, glad you were here today. Glad you're hanging out with us. All right, so let's jump into our path of scalability. For those of you guys who are just catching up with us, here's what we're working on. What we're doing is we're figuring out, okay, what do we need to do to turn our company scalable? What do we need to have in place? What are like just kind of outlining like where is everything, what's happening, what's going on, so that way we can start to figure out how do we automate and dominate. Because if you can automate your systems, it's going to save you a massive amount of time, energy, money, and let you go a whole lot further with a whole lot less people, and really work on getting things to a place where you can really start to dial in your systems and figure out what's happening. Man, I got this one thing that I want to share with you guys. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit outside of this, but as I was going down this path of scalability, the reason that I started doing this training is because I'm doing this for Profit Lifter. Like I sat down and I got mad because we have so many kind of like we've built so much stuff and things are kind of disjointed and fragmented in some areas. And so I had to sit down and go, okay, what's preventing me from scaling? And so that's where I came up with this path to scalability. It was out of sheer frustration in my own position with Profit Lifter, and then figuring out like how do we overcome this? How do we actually turn this into something that really becomes that we can not only use for ourselves, but that we can also implement for you guys. So that way, all of us can have a very clear path for our growth, for our strategies of what we're doing and how we're moving things forward. But the reason, the thing that I want to show you guys while we were going through this, and this is something that we will be getting you guys access to later on. This will probably be like number 3 or number 4 on our product release. But I want to just show you this real quick because like I'm having so much fun with this, and it's revolutionizing. It's really going to change the way that we're scaling, and hopefully the way you're scaling as well. And that is this: we have this premium that we purchased for, which is actually a complete task management system. Meaning that like if you're used to using like Trello, or if you're used to using like if you have projects, if you have things that you're doing, and I will tell you a secret, every single one of you has projects. You just don't know that you have projects. So it could be like a marketing project, it could be anything. This is actually a complete marketing. Uh, this is actually a complete marketing, or not marketing. This is actually a complete task management system where you can create tickets for client support. It's drag and drop, so just a lot of really cool functions in here. This is brand new for us, and my brain is geeking out over it. But this is something that, like, as we're building out this path to scalability, this goes a long way. And the other cool thing about this system, and we'll do a real deep dive on this once we're ready to start building it out for you and adding it to your systems. But it also has a place where you can put like your training guidelines, your SOPs, everything. So Profit Lifter has become an even more of a one-stop solution for you, meaning that you can manage your team. All your team can have access to this. You can create support tickets. You can have like different projects that you're working on. So like right now, we're moving our project management over from Basecamp in here. So we set this up as a project. I mean, just all sorts of functionality where you can create templates, and it's really cool. So you may not geek out over that yet. One day, I promise this will be fun. So that was just occupying my brain. I just wanted to show you because it's Friday. It's the 5th of July. I'm surprised some of you guys are here with me today. So let's hop back into our scaling systems, our path to scalability, and what we're working on. And let's get caught up here. So first off, we got we had covered last Friday. We had talked about marketing. Started working through all the different things that we need here. We started working through our sales process. Like, what do we need to automate our sales process? How do we really get this to a point that we can start hiring salespeople? That we can bring in different people. When do we need to bring them in? How do we want to bring them on? These were all. Actually, I don't even think how do we hire and onboard. So these are all things that we hadn't even really. These are all things we were thinking about with the sales process. Then we started looking at product deliverability, like what are the deliverables, what's the cost, how long does it take to deliver these, what do we need to do to be able to get in here and make this work, and then started looking at like making sure that, like, thinking through our pricing options, product scaling, upsell, downsells, cross sells, JVs, all that fun stuff, team hires, all of that. So where we kind of left off is, and I think, yeah, because we were building these out here. So where we had left off is we had left off on customer support. And honestly, guys, this is why I found that plugin. This is why this is what led to this new tool, was our customer support. Because I mean, you guys know, as a small company, when you have a limited number of people, like we've got a pretty small team. I think there's like 5 or 6 of us now that are all floating around helping our clients out. But like with a small team like this, like you've got to manage your client support and know what you're going to be doing. So for me, the customer support is always a huge key, because like selling things is not the hard part. Fulfilling it and making sure you're delivering the best product, making sure that your customers know what's going on, communicating with them, being engaged with them, answering the questions, and really getting them engaged in what you're doing. That's it. Like that's where not only will you make money from the clients coming in off the sales process, but this is where you get your referrals. This is where you build your affiliate base. This is where you get people that will be your reviews and testimonials that you can use for future marketing, all of these different things. So so let's think about, what do we need to do to build a scalable, what are some things we need to do to build to make sure that our customer support can scale with the growth of our company. So the first thing we had talked about is, like, what type of support do you offer? Are you doing online? Is it phone? Is it video? Is it chat? Like, what type does this need to be? Now, I'm not ever gonna tell you while we're going through this path of scalability what is the best and what isn't the best. And the reason I'm not is because what's best for me and what I want to do isn't going to be the same as what's going to be best for you and what you want to do. And so with that, like, for example, I hate talking on the phone. Like I don't mind videos. I love doing video calls with people, doing that one-on-one interaction, but like just picking up the phone and talking to people, like eh, I got so much ADHD that I start getting distracted. I'm like, oh, I need to be building this. I need to be creating this. I need to do this. And so if I'm not looking at the person, sometimes I'm on the phone. I'm sitting here going around doing all the different stuff. It turns into a mess. And not only that, but let's talk about some real practical issues with this as well. If you're looking at if you're looking at phone support, there is a very high expectation of communication on phone, meaning that like if everything is online, like your AI, Chat GPT, things like that can cover a very wide range of communications, streamlining things. But with online, with chat, things like that, you don't necessarily need somebody who's incredibly fluent and clear with their English communication. Meaning that like online support is going to give you the ability to leverage like contractors from the Philippines. I love the my Filipino contractors. They're always the nicest, most polite, respectful people. Like they're wonderful with customers. Just kind, good-hearted people. The majority of the time, there's always the individuals in there. But you do have a language barrier there because English isn't their first native language, and so a lot of times you get into heavy accents, you get into misdialogue, miscommunications because things that are regularly communicated inside of the U.S. are interpreted different in different countries, and so that's all things that we want to think about. Now, this is where I think that like online kind of for me for right now makes a lot more sense for us than like the phone side, because at that point now, instead of me or Brett or somebody from the US having to be involved in all of the phone calls, having it online and having it digital means that I can have one VA that may not be the easiest to understand on phone or on video, but can just go in there, like type their thoughts, throw it into Chat GPT, have AI translate it and then or interpret it, and then throw it out there into the chat and work with that. The other thing that I like is that like when you start getting into online support is always going to be considerably more scalable than phone support, because with AI, like I could sit here and have 12 different chatbots all pulled up and 12 different conversations going, and I could be managing all of these conversations at one time, meaning that one person in a 30-minute window may be able to talk to 15, 20 different people. Phone for 30 minutes is one person on the phone for 30 minutes, meaning that time is going to be phone or video. Like when you're thinking about this, you need to be thinking about how does that work. Now, the other side of this, what will support cover? Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is if like you're white labeling a service, or you're offering, you're like an affiliate, or you have services that somebody else is actually technically handling the customer support. And this happens a lot in software sales. Like if you're reselling software, if you're white labeling software, and then you're adding to it, you're gonna excuse me, you're gonna run into you're going to find that some of that support may be covered by the provider. So from there, you need to be thinking about like what will support cover, meaning that do you have like an in-house support versus we're going to call this provider support. Like are you going to be required to cover it, or is the provider going to cover it? Now, the other thing that you need to think about is if you're doing it, what does in-house cover? Is it going to cover just thinking off the top of my head, like my in-house support, if we were white labeling a software, like go high level like we are, I'm going to be thinking about, okay, you know what, I need my support team to worry about like the onboarding, getting customers from the point of purchase actually into the software using it, and then managing payments, because a lot of these third-party companies or the providers do not actually cover the payments. So you are going to need to be thinking about like, when am I going to need support? How am I going to support these people? And then from there, The other thing that you want to think about is like how much can you handle until you need to hire. Meaning that like how much of the communications are you going to be able to do? What are you going to be able to work on and handle until you're ready to hire? Now, one of the other things that I want to bring up is last week I had told you about my this fun little model that we've been that I learned with hiring and onboarding called the peanut butter and jelly method, where instead of just saying, "Hey, go make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich," and then being shocked when it comes back with crunchy peanut butter and like apricot jam or something weird like that. You basically go in and you say, look, I want it on this bread, I want this kind of peanut butter, I want this kind of jelly, and you tell them what to do. The reason that I love this model is because this actually puts you in a position that instead of just going through the motions and going, God, I got to take another phone call about billing, I need to blah, blah, blah. Now, when you're going through this process, you get to fulfill these roles with a purpose. And the reason that I like putting this path together and giving you this big outline of kind of what your company should look like, how it should function, how you can automate everything, is because it lets you see what parts of your business that you're managing at the moment. And the reason this becomes critical is because, like, as we get into this, as you get into this, we're gonna like I'm gonna and I'll show you how to do this as you get into this. But from here, you're gonna be able to start building out an SOP library, meaning, and this is what I mean. Anytime I'm building something, anytime I'm adding something to the company, or I'm creating a position, or doing anything like that, I want to know what's going on. Like, I need to know, like, how are we talking with people on support? How are we communicating with them? What are we saying? All of that. And this is critical when you're getting started and you're starting to scale, because you're going to be responsible for it. But I always like to do it until I can hand it off. Um, and and the reason that this is such a good strategy is because while you're getting in here doing things, you're going to be looking for the most efficient method possible. Opposed to if you go out and hire somebody, they may not be as worried about efficiency. Like, for example, like I showed you that management software that we were looking at, and Herwin, my VA, who my teammate who helps with like onboarding customer support, he's like, boss, you're putting me out of a job here. And so like his brain isn't thinking efficiency. His is thinking, this is my role inside of the company. Here's how I help. Here's how I take care of my clients. And so he's not looking at how can I do the most amount of work. He's looking at how can I do the best amount of work. For me, I'm looking at how can I do both? How can I do the most at the best quality? And so you handling these different positions inside of the company will let you start building out an SOP library. Now, you guys have all seen what my SOP library consists of. It's almost entirely consists of Loom videos, because that is by far the fastest, most efficient way to be able to put something together, be able to communicate your thoughts and ideas. But having that SOP library and start to build that out is going to put you in a position that as you're going through the motions, as you're building from the ground up, you're getting things going, now you're going to be able to start creating these videos and creating these libraries and these training. So that way, when you hire your customer support, your team member who's going to be helping you on this side, you can show them how you want them to build to make your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's the goal here. We want to build it the way that you want to build it, so that you can hand it off with confidence, knowing that it's going to be done. So the customer support, what type of support do you offer? What will you want to think inclusive list? This is just getting us to the point that we start thinking about this and we can start diving into these topics a little bit more. All right, let's jump into our next area here, and this is going to be team building. So team building, this is going to be team building. This is going to come into strategies, and this is going to you guys are probably seeing this. All of these sections kind of overlap each other, like getting into sales, product delivery, and marketing. They're very tangible. But team building is actually going to encompass all of them, because this is going to be your This is going to be your growth strategy. This is what it's going to be like when you start hiring people. So the first thing that you need to think about, that you're going to need to think about with this, is going to be salaries. Like, how much are you paying? Um, how much are you paying who? Meaning that, like, you can't hire a salesperson by going out and saying, hey, come do sales for me. Oh, how much are you going to pay me? I don't know, we'll figure it out. Doesn't work, I promise. I've never tried it, but if somebody ever said that to me, I mean, I would just literally walk away, because that's just incredibly poor leadership. And if somebody can't tell me how much I'm getting paid right out of the gate, then they're not really serious about their business and what they're doing. And so I don't want to work with them. But you need to be thinking about, like, how much are you paying to who? And maybe it should be to whom. But how much are you going to pay them? And then you need to be thinking about who does what, when, and how. Meaning that like, if you don't know, and hopefully, like, going through this system and thinking through these are going to help. But what you want to be thinking about with this is who is going to handle each of the tasks. Not, and this doesn't have to be specific names. This is going to be like position titles. And when you're thinking about this, you don't want to. There's a couple ways that you want to think about this. Meaning that you want to be thinking about, well, let's have transparent conversations here, because that's what we're all about. When you hire your first batch of people, your first hires are probably not going to be your C level, or your S level, your strategy level employees. Sometimes you get lucky. Like, I'll tell you guys right now. Like, I got incredibly lucky that the timing with Brett lined up with me. Like, it just fortuitous. Like, it's a blessing. It was incredibly lucky. I was able to bring in one of my top level players that I would have hired top level regardless of where I was at when with the company. I was able to bring him out and bring him on from the get-go. So I got lucky there. And a lot of times when you're looking like sales positions, you're looking at people that are in the US, that's going to happen. But when you're hiring, like, let's say your first marketing person, you're hiring your first customer support person, you're bringing in your first VAs. Your first hires aren't necessarily going to be your top level people. So you want to be thinking about what are the things that they can take off of you. Now, some of the conversations that I've had with people that I think are a little, not disingenuous, they're just not well thought through, is they think, I'm going to bring on this person who's going to like run my marketing, and I'm going to pay them $5 an hour. Let me just tell you, if you're paying somebody $5 an hour to run all of your marketing, it's going to be crap. It's not going to be good, because you get what you pay for. Anybody who is really good at running marketing, anybody who's really good at running an entire team and an entire division of a company is going to require a lot more than $5 an hour. And that's even as contractors. Like, when you start getting into your higher level contractors, somebody that you may pay in the US $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year, you're going to end up paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month for them overseas. You're still going to have to really invest a lot of money into your top level team, regardless of what country they're in. So you want to be thinking about your first hires. And what's a good way to think about this? I know what my brain's saying, and I don't know if I can illustrate it well. Maybe not. I don't think I can. No, there's no clean way of doing it in here. But you want to, we're gonna just say this. So we want to be thinking about our first hires from the bottom up, meaning that, like, when I'm hiring a team, I'm not going out there looking for the top level players. I'm not going out there when I'm in startup mode, when I'm like really having to get creative on how we're spending our cash and where we're investing our revenue. I'm not going to go out there and go, okay, I'm going to bring on this person who's going to handle all this high level stuff, because I need people who can do the work and take that stress off of me, so I can be the leader, that I can get out there, I can market, I can do live videos, I can do all the stuff that I need to do to grow the company. So when I'm looking at my hiring strategy, and maybe that's what we need to call this, um, like my first hires, I want to start at the bottom, and then this is going to give me the ability that when I need to start scaling this, my bottom person that I started with here may actually turn into somebody that I'm able to move up with the company, and meaning that like I'll just throw it out there. Herwin, I love Herwin, man. One of the best attitudes, one of the hardest workers I've got with Profit Lifter. I mean, this guy is just a machine. And I can't even tell you how many times I'm up working late, and him and his son are just sitting there on the computer and chatting with me. Adorable. He's got a little 3-year-old. It's the cutest thing ever. But like his work ethic, his knowledge, what he's getting, it like he sees the path and understands that if he can stay on top of this and help build, that he's going to be able to build with me, meaning that my next hire is going to be supporting him. Now, if you start hiring people and they don't turn into that, that's okay. Leave the people in that position, and then you can hire positions above them. Meaning that like you've got somebody who's doing kind of the low level, like, okay, you're going to answer calls, you're going to show people how to log in, you're going to be doing tasks A, B, and C. Where this other person may be more advanced in like tech skills, where I'm like, okay, you're going to handle D, E, and F. You're going to be the escalation department. You're going to handle these bigger things over here. So when you're thinking about your hire strategies, don't worry about finding the perfect person who's going to just change your business. Worry about finding that hard worker that is going to buy into your vision, buy into what you're doing, and really give you as much of their energy as they can to do what you need done to take the work off of you. Your first hire should always be about relieving your workload, because if you get burnt out, it's really hard to recover from a burnout. I've burnt myself out many a times. You always have to be careful of that. Be top of mind. So that's what you want to be thinking about with hiring strategy, and we'll get into that more. And we'll start like once because we're going to do just full days on all of these. Start building out different plans, different strategies with this, and then building out systems inside of the CRM so that you can facilitate this. But that's that. So let's go back down to salary. Now, salary, how much are you going to pay? This is actually going to fall under our profitability down here as well. And here's what I will tell you. Um, this is going to be thinking about payroll. This is going to be thinking about everything. But when you start working on your team building, thinking through your strategies and thinking about all of that, the first thing that you want to think about is you want to think about what is your profit margin. The first thing that you always want to be thinking about is what is your profit margin? How much profit do I make from this product? Now, where I think a lot of startups, especially if this is your first startup, a lot of times what we start thinking about is like our first thought as a startup is how do I replace my income, right? I mean, if that's you, give me a yes, of course. Give me a thumbs up. Give me something. Let me know that if you've ever thought about this, like how do I replace my income as a startup? That is by far one of the first things that you think about. Like how can I turn this into something that I can dedicate all of my attention, all of my time to, and really get into a place that this can be my full time gig. That this is just what I do. It becomes a part of my everyday. This is what I do. While that's not a bad thought, I think that a lot of times what this does is it puts us into almost a chaos mode of accounting. And what that looks like for me, and I've seen this, I've done this. I'm going to share with you guys some of my failures as on my journey of entrepreneurship, so that way you guys can learn through it and hopefully not have to go down the paths that I have. But what happens is when you're chasing your paycheck, you start losing your growth in mind. And what happens is have you ever heard that analogy of what you look at, you tend to steer towards? it's like when you're learning to drive. If like I've got kids that are learning to drive now, and when you drive at night, if you're staring at the oncoming headlights, you naturally start to veer towards that. It's the same thing with your business. If your accounting and and how you're paying yourself is totally chaotic, the only thing that you're going to be focused on all the time is how do I replace my paycheck? And when you get into that mode, it creates such a chaos and panic mode in your revenue models that you can't really think about your long-term growth. So what I want to be thinking about and what I want to challenge you with is, instead of thinking, how do I replace my income? We're going to change this with one word. And this one word, let's see if I still have my strike through buttons here. I don't think I do. Oh, come on. I was trying to be fancy and it's not letting me. Um, is it Control S? No, it's not. We're going to change this to, when do I replace my income? So we're going to go from how do I replace my income to when do I replace my income? And the reason that you want to do this is you want to be thinking about, so with this, you want to be thinking about, how much do I get from each sale? And the way that you come up with that is you want to first profit first. Profit first. And I've taught on this book. This is a book I've taught on it before. I love this book. It was revolutionary. It revolutionized the way that I looked at business, thought about business, meaning that when I sit down, I can look at a transaction and I can go, okay, how much profit do I want to make from this? The reason this is so important, I'm just gonna start scribbling down here for this because this makes sense. So the reason this is so important is, if I look at this and go, okay, you know what, and I'm gonna give you real numbers. Everything that I try to do, I try to leave about a 50% profit 50% margin in there. Why? The reason is because I'm looking at scalable numbers. I'm not necessarily looking at, I'm not looking at how much money am I going to bring in right now, but I'm looking at, like, how do I pay my team? How do I invest in growth? The reason, and when I say 50% margin, this sounds like a huge number, but it's really not. And here's why. Because I know that if I have a 50% margin, that half of all my revenue goes towards payroll, it goes towards commissions, it goes towards software expenses, it goes towards the cost of running the business, meaning that I need half of the money that's coming in from everything I'm doing just to maintain what I am currently doing. Now, from there, the reason that I love this model so much is, now I can look at this going, okay, so for example, the past couple months, I have been on this path to scalability. So we haven't actually, we're getting ready to start running ads. We're getting ready to start promoting Profit Lifter, going on, podcast, really starting to get aggressive in, like, our TikTok videos, our reels, things like that, and really start to make a public push for who we are, start putting ad spin behind it. So now I'm looking at this going, okay, if half of my income coming in is covering my payroll, it's covering my commissions, it's covering my softwares, my costs, my blah 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 blah. Now I want to look at this and go, okay, I'm ready to scale. So now I want to allocate 20% towards paid ads, or towards just growth projects, like investing into things that are going to make it so that I can bring in more money. Meaning that I'm not looking at it, spending everything that I have and going, up, there's no way for me to make it. I'm looking at this going, okay, you know what? Half my money is going towards our, no, this is what we have to pay in order just to keep functioning. Half of everything that's coming in is going towards that. Now I'm going to be able to look at this and go, okay, 20% is going to go towards my paid ads or my growth project. Now that I still have 30% left over. So what else am I going to do with that 30%? I will tell you, as a startup that is funded, as a startup that has investors, that have people who have given us real money to get things up and going, I have payoffs. I have things that I need to be able to pay off. And so now I've got 30% left that I can share out as profit share with my investors. I can use it to pay off loans if I've got investors, or like if you start, if you take money, if you take money up front that you want. But it gives you, and these numbers, like these are just kind of arbitrary numbers. I'm just putting this out for example. But what I want you to be thinking about is that, like, by going down this path, it's letting you now start to focus on how many deals can I bring in? How do I get this to the point that, like, if 50% of this, the first 50% of everything that I'm bringing in is going towards me and my ability to be full time, now you have a real number. Now you can start doing math of, okay, if I want to have half my money for really getting to, um, uh, be the profit. What Brent just said something here. He's making quotes for me, and I think I love it. Be the prophet of profit to profit. Yeah, I love that. Be the prophet of profit to profit. Keith Knapp. Yes, I love it. Um, a man moves towards becoming what he thinks about. Ooh, Brant, you are on fire today. Man moves towards becoming what he thinks about. Earl Nightingale. That is absolutely true. These are Brant. These are the exact sayings that I use all the time that I think about. A man is what he thinks about all day long. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And that you are 100% right. You are spot on the money. This is exactly what I'm talking about here. So, like, thinking about your profitability first, thinking about how do I build a profitable company? How do I get it to the point where now I can invest my money, what's left over, into growth? That is going to give you so much more flexibility. And for those of you guys who are in financing, this is a good model to be able to show your clients, because now you can show them, look, if you can get to a point where half of what you're doing is covering all your expenses, now you've got half your money that you can go and you pay off your loans just rapidly and get to a place that you can do more, blah blah blah, growth. But the other side of this is that thinking like this, if you look up and you're like, okay, you know what, I need to make $10,000 a month to be able to cover my expenses and the company expenses so that I can kind of do this full time. You hit that $10,000 mark. If you're at a 50% margin, that means that you are actually bringing in $20,000, meaning that you've got an extra $10,000. What do you do with that? You put it in savings. You put it to the side. You have a cash reserve. You create operating expenses. When you get to a point that you can be full time and you can take that money, now you can take that money and go, okay, you know what? We've got, $50,000, $60,000 sitting here. Let's invest in our next level. Let's start investing into ads. Let's start investing into teams. And it changes your perspective of it, because now you're not chasing money. Now you have a strategy for funding your growth based off of the money that you're bringing in. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to go through hard times. That does not mean that you're not going to have down months, that things are going to be crazy. But if you take your first 6 months of launching your company and you take half of what you're doing and you put it back as a reserve, when you're ready to go full time, your stress level is going to melt away, because now you're not looking at it going, man, if I don't pay this, I'm not making my house payment. And because when you operate out of chaos, you will always make bad decisions. Let me say it again. When you operate out of chaos, you will always make bad decisions, because you are going to be constantly reacting to anything else that's coming towards you besides profit. A good friend of ours, a good friend of mine, calls this crap. His name's Dave Freeze. Those of you guys who know Alex, it's Alex's dad. He says crap. It's constantly reacting to anything but profit. And that's exactly what happens is if you don't have a profitable model set up of how you're going to scale your business, you are going to constantly react to everything. When you have a bad month, now you're chasing more deals. You have an employee leave. Now you're scrambling, putting in late nights, opposed to having a consistent pattern, having a consistent way of you being able to get in, operate with the company, and make it so that you have predictable profits, you have predictable income, and you've got a safeguard to be able to prevent yourself from getting to that place. So you want to be thinking about your profitability, like who are you going to pay, when you're going to pay, avoiding chaos at all measures, because that, like, if you can avoid chaos, then you're going to take over the world. And you want to be thinking about like your payroll, like what your salaries look like, what are your commissions look like. And the beauty of like looking at things like this is this gives you the ability that, like, if you look at it, you're like, okay, you know what, I've got, half of my expenses are going towards my payroll and everything that I'm doing. The other half is sitting there. But you may say, you know what, I want to allocate 20% of that money towards bringing on my first team member. And then you can take the time of going, okay, you know what, we're at a 30% profit margin right now, but my goal is over the next 3 months to get us back to that 50% profit margin, because now I can train my team, I can get them up and going, I can make them efficient, get them productive, and start working through that. But this is all things that you want to think through, because if you don't think through these models up front, when you get there, you're not going to be ready for them. Meaning that, like, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And what we're doing here is thinking about how are you going to make your money work for you, not how are you just going to go out there and work for your money. We need to be thinking about, as you're bringing in money, how are you going to reinvest it? How are you going to turn this into something where your company has growth, it has stability, you're able to attract top talent because they can look at your company and go, okay, you're healthy, you've got good reserves, you can go to the bank and get a loan, so that way, if you're looking at like acquisitions, you're looking at some of the bigger things that you don't have the cash on hand for, the bank's going to look at you and go, man, you got great profit, you got great margins, you got reserves, you got assets. Like, it smooths up everything. But you need to be thinking it through this. Like, what do you want your profit margins to look like? And then create a plan to be able to get there. And that's what our scaling plan is. And that's what our path to scalability is that once you start at the bottom, luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. My man, that's exactly it. Couldn't agree with you more. Um, but that's exactly what we're working on with our path to scalability here. Once you figure out how much you can make with this, how much you start diving into this, then you come all the way. You just start right back at the top. Like, okay, it's going to start with marketing. Once we get the marketing down, now we got the leads coming in. We start making conversions, traffic into leads. And now what happens? Now we need to start thinking about our sales. And so it just becomes this perpetual cycle of like, okay, now we're selling, now we're making money, now we need to be thinking about product delivery. What are we going to do here? And having all of this stuff, and how are we going to increase our product? How are we going to make our product irresistible? What are some of the things that we can bring on? What are some of the things we can do? Then you start thinking about customer support. Now you start thinking about team building. How does this work? And then you get back in, and then you wrap it right back around to profitability. Are we still profitable? Then you just start the system all over. One thing that, when I'm working, when I'm looking at scaling a company, and I'm looking at really the growth, everything that we're covering here covers, like, I always look at it like a wheel, like the wheel's going around, and like you can only build one part of the wheel at a time, because you're a limited team until you get to that point that you've got like a full team that's dedicated towards working on the company. So what I think about is, okay, what do I need to get done first? And then you just start moving around the wheel. So first is going to be our profitability model. What's going to be our model to scalability? What's going to be our revenue to get us there? Then, okay, now let's beef up our marketing. Marketing, you know what? We're ahead of where we were before. This gives us enough to scale. Now that we've done that, how do we increase our sales? Let's review sales. Is our new marketing included? Can we increase our conversions? You get that a little better. Now you're making more money. Now you start looking at your product delivery. And it turns into this cycle that lets you keep going around and around and around and around, keeping a healthy balance of everything that you're doing, meaning that once you know how you're going to make money, now you get out there, you start getting your leads, you start bringing in traffic, then you get into the sales, you start converting your leads into real money, you start delivering better products, you start delivering better services, you start supporting your clients, taking care of them, you start adding to your team so that it becomes more smooth and you're able to do more, help more people, and increase your profitability. And the cycle just keeps going. So I think this is a great start to our path to scalability. So what we're going to be doing next week is we're actually going to be jumping through here, and we're going to dig into really building this out. And is this really built out? No, this is just a brain dump, guys. We're going to get into like the goal is to produce leads. Like we're going to just spell all of this out. And we're going to start marking in here how Profit Lifter is going to be able to help you with that, how you're going to be able to incorporate that into your CRM, into your software, and then creating the strategies to be able to accomplish all the rest of this stuff. So make sure you come hang out with me next week. And like I said, Monday, guys, we got our Snap-ons launching. A lot of cool things there. Super excited about that. So make sure you join me. And for those of you guys who didn't get to see fireworks last night, hopefully you get a good show in this weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me on this beautiful 5th of July, the day after Independence Day. Just a random work day in the middle of at the end of the week. But I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I will plan